scent of white lilies always made me uneasy. That day, it clung to the inside of my throat like a silent warning. I sat in the second row, back straight, lips sealed, hands trembling under my black gloves. My cousin Natalie had insisted I wear them. "So you don't stand out," she whispered sharply, as if I ever had the chance to blend in. The chapel was full of tears, but none of them were mine. Not because I didn't love my grandfather. I did. He was the only one who ever saw me, but now he was gone, and with him, the last thread holding me to this family. They had made it clear the moment I arrived. No drama today, okay? Translation. Don't speak, don't cry, don't remember. Just sit and nod as if you hadn't been the one holding his hand when he died. As if the stories he told you didn't matter. As if you weren't the secret he kept safe. The priest spoke of legacy, of dignity, of a life well lived. But every word felt hollow, because they didn't know him, not like I did. I glanced around. My uncles, in tailored suits, eyes dry. My aunt dabbing at tears that hadn't fallen. And Natalie, always Natalie, standing by the podium like a grieving saint, when I knew she hadn't visited him in over a year. She was the golden one, the pride, the perfect granddaughter. Me? I was the complication, the mistake, just a stray branch on the family tree, my aunt once said when she thought I wasn't listening. But Grandpa had listened. Every late-night phone call, every letter I was too afraid to send, he kept them all. "They don't see you," he told me once. "But I do. And one day, they will too." I didn't know then what he meant, but something in his voice that night felt like a promise. When the priest stepped down and the family began sharing memories, I felt Natalie's hand on my arm. Tight, almost painful. "Don't," she hissed through her teeth. "This is not your moment." I nodded. Not because I agreed, but because I was tired. Tired of the way they rewrote every truth to fit their narrative. Uncle Paul spoke of business deals and sailing trips. Aunt Clarice recounted garden parties and charity galas. No one mentioned the hospital bed. The quiet walks. The way Grandpa's hands shook when the pain became too much. That was my side of the story, and it didn't fit their version. I sat there, invisible, erased. But then I noticed it. A laptop on the podium. A small remote in Natalie's hand. She looked nervous. "Just a little tribute video," she said aloud to the guests, voice sweet as honey. But the moment she pressed play, her smile cracked. The screen flickered to life with soft music and faded family photos. Laughter-filled clips of vacations I was never invited to. Toasts at weddings I watched from a distance. Natalie beamed, clearly proud of her curated masterpiece. But then, the music stopped. The screen went black, a moment of static. And suddenly, his voice. Not a photo, not a memory, but a video, filmed from his hospital bed. The chapel fell into a hush. I froze, because I'd seen that room. I'd held that hand, but I had never seen this recording. "If you're watching this," Grandpa said, voice frail but steady, "it means I've finally shut up, and now it's your turn to listen." Gasps. A murmur rippled through the rows. Natalie reached for the remote, frantic, but the screen didn't go black. He continued, "There's someone in this room who's been told to stay quiet. She's been told she doesn't belong. Well, let me fix that." Every heartbeat echoed in my ears. I saw the faces turn toward me. Confusion, suspicion, something colder too. Natalie stood frozen, the remote limp in her hand. On screen, Grandpa leaned forward, eyes shining despite the pain. "Her name is not a footnote, not a secret. Her name is Claire, and she is my granddaughter, not by blood, but by choice. The only one who stayed." My breath caught. Whispers surged through the crowd like a rising tide. He went on. I took her in when no one else did. I shared with her the truth, the stories, the shame this family buried under wine and reputation. She knows who I really was, not the version you tell your friends at galas. He coughed, wheezed, then looked straight into the lens. Claire, I'm sorry I'm not there to stand beside you. But today, I hope this gives you the voice they tried to take. I didn't cry. I didn't move. I just sat there, absorbing every syllable like sunlight through stained glass. Around me, chaos stirred beneath the surface. Aunt Clarice whispered furiously to her husband. Natalie's face drained of color. The screen showed Grandpa's trembling hands reaching for a blue folder on his nightstand. I've changed my will, he said, not to punish but to honor. He opened it, pages inside, signed, witnessed. Claire will receive the house, the library, the recordings, because memory belongs to those who remember, not those who pose beside it. A collective intake of breath. Someone dropped a glass. Still, I didn't speak. I just looked at the screen and whispered in my mind, I'm here. Grandpa, I'm listening. He closed the folder, looked up. This family talks of legacy, but forgets love. Claire, you were the only one who listened without wanting anything in return. So now, it's yours. For the first time in years, I felt seen, not by the room full of people now casting daggers with their eyes, but by the one person who had always mattered. Grandpa's voice softened. This may cause tension, he said, but the truth often does. Don't let them twist you, Claire. You have a spine made of storms, quiet but unshakable. The video ended with his tired smile. Then, silence. No applause. No condolences. Just a heavy, stunned stillness. Natalie stepped forward, trying to salvage what remained. That wasn't supposed to. I didn't know about that part, she stammered, her voice cracking. Someone in the crowd, I couldn't see who, muttered, maybe he finally got tired of the lies. I stood slowly, not to make a scene, but because my knees felt like they couldn't carry the weight of this vindication. For once, I wasn't the background. I was the truth they tried to hide. As I walked down the aisle toward the exit, every step felt like a reclamation. Not revenge, not spectacle. Just the quiet return of something that had always been mine. Dignity. Belonging. The whispers behind me multiplied. Words like illegitimate, charity case, manipulative. But none of it mattered, because he had spoken. And they couldn't erase a video played in front of 100 mourners. Natalie rushed after me, grabbing my wrist just before I reached the doors. You knew, she said, voice low and trembling. You knew he'd done this. I looked her in the eye, and for the first time, she saw the version of me they had refused to acknowledge. Not fragile, not passive, but forged by everything they overlooked. No, I said softly. I didn't know, but he did. I walked away before she could answer, because I wasn't there to fight. I was there to be free. Outside the chapel, the air was colder than I remembered, sharp, almost bracing. I stood beneath the old oak tree where Grandpa used to wait for me during childhood visits, his hands always holding a thermos of hot cocoa and a crossword puzzle folded in his coat. For a moment, I closed my eyes and imagined he was there again. Not sick, not dying, just proud. I thought about the house, the library, the recordings he left, but most of all, I thought about the voice he gave me in that final act, not through money or property, but through truth. Behind me, the door creaked open. Uncle Paul stepped out, silent for a moment before saying, "You'll be hearing from our lawyer." I turned slowly, met his gaze. "I already did," I said. But the one who mattered most spoke first. His jaw tightened. But he didn't reply. He couldn't. Because deep down, he knew. I didn't return to the reception. Let them toast to facades and whisper behind crystal glasses. I had something more sacred waiting. The keys to a home built on memory, not performance. That evening, I stepped into Grandpa's house alone. The scent of cedar and old paper wrapped around me like a long-forgotten lullaby. I walked past the armchair where he used to read, into the study he always kept locked. Inside, everything was untouched, as if he had just stepped out for tea. On the desk, the blue folder from the video, now addressed to me. Inside were more than legal documents. There were letters, notes, his favorite poems. One page simply read, "You were my legacy all along." I sat down in silence, tears finally escaping. Not for the loss, but for the clarity. In a family that had built its name on image, Grandpa had given me something none of them ever could: truth without condition. Over the next few weeks, silence became my sanctuary. No press conferences, no statements. I ignored the calls from lawyers, the passive-aggressive emails from Natalie, the cold formal letters from Aunt Clarice's legal team. Let them claw at titles and percentages. I had something they couldn't buy. The story, the truth. And I wasn't interested in feeding their circus. Instead, I spent my days in the library, cataloging Grandpa's recordings, digitizing his notes, piecing together the man behind the myth. He'd lived through mistakes, regrets, betrayals, just like me, but he chose to change his ending. And maybe, in honoring him quietly, I was doing the same. One afternoon, I found a cassette labeled simply, "For Claire." His voice crackled through the old speaker. "If you're listening, then they didn't silence you." "Good," I laughed softly, a tear slipping down my cheek. "Make something out of all this," he said. "Something only you could." So I did. A year later, the house wasn't just a house. It was a memory archive, a quiet museum, open to the public once a month. People came not for the name Winters, but for the handwritten notes, the voice recordings, the raw beauty of a man who dared to tell the truth before he died. I never advertised it. I didn't need to. Word spread, especially after a small feature in the local paper titled, "The Granddaughter Who Listened." That headline said more than any inheritance could. Natalie came once. She didn't speak, just walked the halls like a stranger, eyes flickering across portraits she never cared to ask about. As she left, she paused beside me and whispered, "He really chose you." I nodded. "No," I replied gently. "He just saw me." And that was enough, because in the end, my revenge wasn't loud. It was soft, steady, and impossible to ignore. Thank you for watching until the end. If you've ever lived through something similar, share your story in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe, because sometimes the loudest impact is made in silence.